Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Life Unscripted podcast. This week we have an episode where we're going to be focusing on one topic specifically, and that topic's going to be building strength and muscle. We compiled a few questions based on things people had asked us, things Sarah had asked me, and just questions I've been asked several times over the last kind of few years of being a personal trainer around building strength, building muscle. And yeah, I guess we'll just get started. So Sarah? Do you want to start asking me some questions, and we'll not spend too long on each question, just 2 or 3 minutes, just kind of giving
a organic conversation.
Yeah, concise answer for each question you ask, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, no problem. So I guess a good place to start is, what is the difference between muscle and strength?
Strength is literally like how strong are you, and muscle is the actual tissue on your body, but they're pretty much interlinked as far as we're concerned. Like, in order to build muscle, you want to get stronger. And in order to get stronger, at a certain point, you're going to want to build muscle. So there's a part of strength where it's like skill. So you start bench pressing and you don't know how to bench press at all, or you're very new to it. Your nervous system will be learning what you're trying to do. And as a result of getting better at understanding what it is you're trying to do with your body, you'll improve the weight that you can move. So you're not adding muscle per se. Your nervous system is just tuning into what it is you're trying to do, and it's getting more efficient at it. However, at a certain point, the only way to continue to get stronger is by adding muscle.
Is it true whenever you're training and see that way, if your muscles are sore like the day after, is that you, this might be a dumb question, but I might be representing the general following. But whenever you train and then the day after your muscles are sore, does that mean you're growing muscle?
So I would say that doesn't need to happen for you to get stronger or build muscle. But if it does happen, it's a pretty good proxy to suggest that whatever you've done has caused some damage in that muscle. And as a result, as long as you fuel yourself enough and fuel yourself correctly, and you sleep enough, your body will repair and get stronger. So it's like, if I do bench press and I wake up the next day and my chest is really sore, it's a pretty good proxy that you'll probably be building something in your chest. But then again, if you bench pressed and you woke up and your chest wasn't sore, that doesn't mean you've not made gains in your chest. So whether it happens or not doesn't really matter. And it mostly happens to people when you either do something they're not used to doing, or you do more volume than you usually do, or especially it happens if you do an exercise that involves a lot of stretch. So maybe a good example is when you do a bench press, there's your chest stretches a wee bit, whereas if you do a fly, which is when you've got the 2 dumbbells in your hands and you're lying on the bench, and you do this big kind of you open your hands up as you're lying flat, there's a really big stretch in the chest there. So if you're putting a much bigger stretch on the muscle, the chances are you're going to create more soreness. But just to answer your question, so those 3 reasons that will generally always make you more sore, but it doesn't mean by not getting sore, you're not making gains. It's like if you've been bench pressing pretty consistently for a couple of years and you're not adding loads more volume, you're just slowly you're working in a similar rep range and you're just slowly getting stronger over time. Chances are you're probably not going to get a lot of pain from that, next day soreness, or DOMS, and delayed onset muscle soreness, as they call it. But it doesn't mean you're not making gains.
So how does the muscle actually grow?
You essentially build muscle by, are you asking?
I want to know, I imagine a little muscle inside your body. How does it get bigger? Does the fibers and things, do they need to tear in a way to then rebuild to get bigger? How does it actually get bigger?
I mean,
you don't know.
No. There's a couple of ways that people that we assume it happens. So it's there's the actual damage that you're talking about, which is just when the muscle gets damaged, then repairs itself bigger. And then there's kind of this other thing that we think may contribute to muscle growth, which is just when the muscle swells up from having lots of blood and nutrients in the area, that can potentially cause muscle growth as well. But as far as we're concerned, you work out. As you work out, you put stress on your body adapts. It can then handle a little bit more. So you have to do a little bit more in order to incur more stress in the body. And then those 2 things just taper up over time. That's why I'm saying that they're pretty much interlinked as far as we're concerned. You can specialize a bit as a strength athlete in purely getting stronger and more efficient at a movement. But in terms of general population and just wanting to, look, feel, perform your best, they're interlinked.
Interesting. How often would you say that you should work out to build muscle?
So I would say you need to at least work out once a week. At least once.
Can you still build muscle even just training for once a week?
Yeah, I've had several clients that have only come to me once a week and they've not actually done anything outside of that, and they have built muscle. However, it will be slower, and at a certain point, it probably, not that it's not possible, it may just be so slow that you barely even see it. I think probably in the beginning, if you're not training at all, or you're returning to training after a very long hiatus, once a week's a fine place to start. Or even like what I say, it's like an hour workout. You could do that as one 1 hour workout, or maybe you could split it into 2 half-hour workouts. That amount's plenty in the beginning. But yeah, I would say at least twice a week is probably best for most people. Once you're comfortable with once a week and you're doing that regularly and you want to up it to 2, I would go to 2. The results, it's like the results will be considerably more significant by doing twice a week. And then probably again, maybe 3 times a week as well. And honestly though, after 3 times a week, how you set up your training needs to change probably for a lot of people, just so you're not overdoing it. But after 3 times a week, I don't think you're going to gain significantly more.
I just think it could be quite surprising for people because once a week is actually manageable. I think if you have a very busy lifestyle, depending on your situation, it's achievable. You can do it. And then I think people get quite surprised. I mean, especially like what's out on Instagram and all these like influencers and personal trainers and things like, I would suspect that they'd be training like 5-6 times a week and like hard. But then whenever you are involved in strength training, you realize how like knackering it is and how tired you are, and to be able to upkeep that for every single session and to then be able to have the strength to keep coming back, you're not going to make much progression. That's what I've found anyway. But
yeah. And in the beginning, you can make gains on one. And the nice thing as well is, for people to understand, is let's say you do start doing 2 or 3 times a week because you do want to really, you've done maybe once a week for a little bit of time, or you just want to jump in and actually get more significant results. So you go in that kind of like 2-3 times a week. If there's ever a busier period in your life, whether that ends up being a couple of weeks or whether that ends up being a couple of months, you could fall back to 1 strength workout a week and maintain all your results at the very least. So it's like, and I do. It's worthwhile knowing that, because it just means it's like you don't have to just abandon it completely just because things are getting busier and you don't see the point. You can potentially make very slow progress, but at the very least you can maintain all your results once a week. Definitely, if you've been training 2, 3, or 4 times a week prior to that.
There's like a stage in your life, if I don't know, like a new job or you're having a baby, like if you were training consistently like a few times a week, then you found that for a few months you had to taper it back. It's quite a nice thought to be able to know that if I train once a week, I won't lose all the work that I've put in.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of building muscle and strength, I think 2 times a week would still be superior. And if it's a time issue you've got, if it's like a day issue, so there's only 1 day you can go, then 1 is still way better than nothing. But if you could still split it into 2, I would argue that's better. So that's like 2. Instead of being in the gym once a week for like maybe 75 minutes, if you could go to the gym twice a week for like 30 to 40 minutes, that would probably still be superior. If you're in a busier period in your life,
right,
that would probably still be better, because it just is stimulating your body twice in a week opposed to just once. And when you stimulate your body, you're breaking it down. It needs to go stronger. Doing that twice a week versus once will be significant.
So on average, you'd say 3 times a week, if not 1 to 2.
I would say, for most people, if they can get in the gym and train strength somewhere in the realm of 2 to 4 times a week, it would be more than enough for basically everybody.
How often do you train, strength-wise?
4. However, I do 2 full body workouts, and then I do 2 workouts that are kind of like mini workouts currently, where I'm doing 2 full body workouts where I'm squatting, I'm deadlifting, I'm bench pressing, I'm doing pull-ups, I'm doing all those big exercises, and I do a lot of sandbag stuff as well, so I'm doing stuff with the sandbags. Stuff that's quite challenging, it's full body stuff. That happens twice a week. Those workouts usually last about an hour. And then I do 2 kind of mini workouts where I'm filling in some gaps. So like I have one day where it's like spine day. So I'm training my neck, I'm training my core, training my ability to rotate, side bend. Then I've recently now added in another day where I'm training more like, I'll train like my arms and some other like smaller accessory stuff. So honestly, like those days are not too taxing, because it's more like small accessory isolation stuff. So it is 4, but if I could easily be in the gym twice a week for 75 to maybe 90 minutes and have that be 2 workouts.
Right.
I just found I just like it. I just like setting up that way. I find psychologically for me at the moment, spending less than an hour in the gym is quite nice.
I think across the board, I think most people would, unless it depends on your situation. But for me as well, I think knowing that I'm going to be in the gym for like 45 minutes to an hour, that's more than enough time, because you're conscious, like, it feels like wasting time's the wrong word. Like the gym time should be like a priority. However, whenever you're running like a 9 to 5 job, or you've got clients, or you're working from home, like just trying to balance everything to make sure everything gets done. You don't want to feel like you're getting your time taken up too much.
Yeah, I think
you still want, especially because you're in a muscle building phase at the moment, you want to ensure you're like optimizing your time.
That's the beautiful thing about this, that I want there to be a big takeaway from this episode, is that many roads lead to Rome in this case.
Right.
So there's many, many, many different setups that will work and still get you really, really good results. We'll end up in like echo chambers online. It sells to be like, my way is the right way. And that way might be a great way for a certain person in a certain circumstance, but it doesn't mean it's the right way for everybody in terms of like how you're setting up your training. There's many, many ways you can set up your training. As long as there's some like, and we'll talk about them today, I think there's some like big picture things you're getting right. There's lots of flexibility within that. So for someone, that might mean maybe you've got 2 nights a week where it suits you to be in the gym, 7 to 80 minutes.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can only go twice a week and you can be in there for 45 minutes. That's fine too. Or maybe it suits you to be in the gym 4 times a week and you're there, maybe like me, you're there for an hour a couple of times and then half an hour a couple of times. But there's so much different options available. I do spend a lot of time in the gym experimenting with stuff, and I also really enjoy being in the gym. But yeah, there's so many different ways you can set things up.
And whenever, so say you're training 2 to 3 times a week, and you've got your sessions maybe about 45 minutes to an hour. Whenever you're there, like the structure of your gym time, is there a certain amount of sets you should be doing, like versus reps? Is it the way you do the exercise? Like, would that change how you shape your body? Might be the wrong word, but to actually optimize muscle growth, what would you advise?
I would advise, so in terms of building muscle, if you're training roughly anywhere between 5 reps and 30 reps, the results will be fairly similar.
Okay.
But from a practicality point of view, I don't tend to say 5 to 30 because who the hell wants to do 30 reps of something? So to narrow it down a little bit, I'd say if you're training somewhere in the 5 to 20 rep range and you're progressively getting stronger, muscle building results will be similar across the board for most people. And some people prefer slightly lower, slightly higher, and you can like allow yourself to kind of train to your preferences. And then to kind of nuance that a little bit further, I would say for your compound exercises, so compound meaning they're multi-joint. So when you squat, your ankles are bending, your knees are bending, your hips are bending. There's several joints at once, all bending. So there's many muscles involved. For those type of exercises, or like a bench press would be another example, or a pull-up or a deadlift, those big exercises that target many muscles and use many parts of the body. For those, I would say somewhere in about the 5 to 12 rep range is a really nice place for most people. So by that, I mean, you pick a rep range. So whether that's 5 to 8 reps, 6 to 8 reps, 6 to 10, 8 to 12, you just basically want to pick a rep range and slowly get stronger at it over time. So maybe I pick 6 to 8 reps for my bench press. So I do my bench press and say it's 70 kilos and I manage 3 sets, let's say. I want to do 3 sets. So maybe I get 8 reps, then 8 reps, then 7 reps. I just stick with that weight until I can do 8 reps across the board. And then I add a little bit of weight. So now I go to 72.5 kilos. And then I start again, and maybe I go in and I get like 8 reps, 7 reps, 6 reps. And I just stick with that weight until again, I can get them all at 8. And then maybe I spend 2-3 months doing 6 to 8. And then I just have to pick a new rep range. Just, there's potentially some physiological benefits, but there's certainly psychological benefits. Then I go like, I don't know, 8 to 12. And then I just start again and I spend 3 months. And then that's really all you have to do for like your compound exercises. And then for your isolation stuff, so isolation meaning or your accessory stuff, like it's generally only one joint that's moving. So in a bicep curl, it's really only your elbow that's moving. Okay. For that, I would say slightly higher. It tends to be good for most people. So somewhere in kind of that like 8 to 20 reps. Again, just pick a rep range within that, 8 to 12, 10 to 15, 12 to 15, 15 to 20. So whatever you want. There's all really common rep ranges you'll see in programs. And then just do the exact same thing that I laid out for the compound exercises.
And within your like structure of I was going to say class, but your time in the gym, is it okay to do like compound and isolation movements like within?
Yeah. So
the whole time?
No, I would. I would do. So I know I was saying there I was doing more like the compound stuff in one workout than the more the isolation stuff in another workout. But yeah, you could definitely do them in both a workout. And to be fair, I actually generally will start my workouts with a couple of isolation stuff or a couple like that serves as stuff that people and myself tend to neglect. So I'll do it at the start when I'm fresh. It means it's getting done. And then I'll also kind of warm myself up, get some blood flowing for the heavier compound stuff. So an example might be the workout the other day, I was doing front squats. And before it, I was doing hanging knee raises, which is when you hang off the bar. And I was doing toes to bar, but it's like similar exercise. You hang from the bar and you pull your knees up to your chest and then you lower them back down. So you're working like the front of your hips and your core. I was doing toes to bar, which is the same. It's just you're pulling your toes up to the bar and then controlling them back down.
Right.
And I superset that with calf raises. So just going up.
Superset means?
Superset means you do one exercise, then you go straight into the next one, and then you rest, and then you repeat that. In this case, I repeat it for 3 rounds. Calf raises, just going up my tiptoes and then going back down. I did it at a deficit, so I was like, my heels were hanging off an edge, just so I get a bit of a stretch in my calves. Because it just means I'm getting in some ab work, I'm getting in some grip work with the hanging. It feels really good to get my arms overhead and hang, and then I'm also getting in some calf work. And then by the time I'm coming into that probably took about, I don't know, 7-8 minutes to get through that little section. And then I'm coming into my front squats. My calves are feeling really warm. I've got lots of blood in my knees because of that. And my core, my spine, my back's all feeling warm as well. My hips are feeling warm from the toes to bar. And then I go into my compound stuff. You could also just jump straight into your compounds, or you could do your compound exercises and then finish off with some isolation stuff.
But I guess because compound stuff would be a bit bigger, right? Like if it was...
It is the bigger stuff.
Back squats or...
It's just all the big exercises you can
So then if you're a bit tired, you may not want to do the isolation movements at the end whenever you're sort of done.
Yeah. I mean...
But by doing the isolation, like you've got blood in your knees and your calves, and you're kind of warmed up in a way.
So that's what I mean. Like that's why I said when I say many roads lead to Rome. You could do them some before, then go into your compounds. You could not do them before, do your compounds, then go into your isolations. I'm doing quite a lot of kind of more accessory and isolation stuff on my mini workouts, so I'm doing them on a different day. So that there's so many options. It doesn't matter that much. Mm-hmm. As long as you're getting to the gym, it's like these nuances, I don't want people to get caught up in them too much. If you're currently not going to the gym at least once a week consistently, but ideally 2 or 3 times consistently to do some strength work, I would focus on getting in to do that, following a decent program that you enjoy, and then worry about these nuances way down the line. It's not that important.
Okay, so then whenever you're actually training, how much, like for weight wise, I used to go to the body pump classes. That would be quite a lot. It was lighter weight, but a lot of reps. And I think it was maybe more cardio based. It was really fun. Like I really enjoyed it, but I didn't tend to see any muscle growth from it. What would you advise, like weight wise?
Yeah, I mean, the body pump's a great thing to get you like moving, get you exercising.
I was a beginner. It was really fun. Really fun.
It will get your heart rate up, so there will be some cardio benefits from it for sure. In terms of, and right at the beginning, if you're very new, you probably will see some small amount of like muscle and strength gains, but that will very quickly tap out. But in terms of if you're actually in the gym training with weights, you want to use a weight that challenges you, basically. That's the weight you want to use. There's not like you need to do 60 kilos in the bench press. It's not like a statement like that. It's like if you do 40 kilos in the bench press and say you've chosen the rep range of 6 to 8, and it's that 40 kilos feels very challenging for you between 6 and 8 reps, then it's a good weight. And then once it starts to feel easier, add on a bit of weight. Repeat that process. So you go to 42.5, repeat it. And then you keep repeating that, and then 6 months down the line, you're benching 60 kilos, and a year down the line, you're benching 100 kilos, and that process does obviously slow down because you can't just keep adding weight forever. But that's the general idea.
And when you say challenging, this might be a tricky thing to answer because obviously I can't tell what you're feeling. But see, if you're rocking up to the gym one day and you've had a really tough day at work, you're absolutely knackered, and your level of challenging could be different. But maybe this is when the script comes into play. How do you know you're just being lazy or you're actually challenging yourself? Because there's sometimes, I think whenever I'm working out, I think I probably know I could do more. Or there's some days like today, I feel like I was physically tapped out. I was like, I am exhausted. I can't do any more. But maybe that's just a self-reflection moment.
Yeah, we spoke about this on another podcast. I think it's just about, because the script's not really going to like it either way, no matter what you choose. Like if you choose to like push, or if you choose to like give yourself a bit of a break, I would say don't maybe judge it. And even if you're tired, or if you've not had the, like I've been very tired, or I've not had a great day, and I've went into the gym and it's been an amazing workout. So I would say allow yourself to get warmed up and start to get into the workout, and then make the decision if, you know, maybe you're going to pull back a wee bit, or if you're going to really push things in general, you know, like it's just because you maybe feel a bit down or you feel a bit tired, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't have a good workout. It's but in terms of if you're actually feeling really below the weather, or you're proper knackered, and you really feel like, it's trying to be honest with yourself about like, oh, is it worthwhile me going, or is it actually, this is the thing. There's people on two sides of the coin, and most people lay on the side of the coin where they probably don't do enough, and they probably don't push themselves hard enough on a regular basis. So those people could probably deal with just, they could use going and pushing a wee bit harder. But there is some people that sit on the side of the coin of they do a bit too much. And those people just need to be honest with themselves about when they're overdoing it and they need to pull back. I don't want to use that as a like, I say it because some people actually do that, but most people could really use more movement and a bit more push. I say more people I see lie on that side of the coin. And it's just practice and being honest with yourself. And again, it's working with, I mean, I'm a coach, but I generally think working with a coach really, really helps, because they can help you navigate working out, you know, having that conversation with you. Like, how you feeling? Is it just maybe the script, or do you actually need to take a bit of a rest today? Or they can have that conversation with you. I think having someone who's got the experience, whether that's maybe a friend who's just been in the gym for many years, or whether that's an actual coach, I think they can really help have that conversation with you to kind of help you understand when it's time to push or pull back. Or
because it's the fine balance between, I do think I am on the side of the coin which I need to push myself more, and I think it's feeling uncomfortable I don't like. So whether you're sweating from cardio, or I think strength training, I do still feel like I'm quite new to it. But the feeling that your body feels whenever you're lifting heavy, I've never experienced it before. And it's a euphoric moment both at the same time, when you're trying a weight that's a little bit too heavy and you think you can do it, but you need that last bit of a push. And sometimes you're physically not able to just yet. But the feeling that your body feels, I've never experienced it before. And it's just, I think having a coach in that regard would be really useful, because it's that fine line between being held accountable, helping to push you. It's just a good balance. My next question. So we've spoken about sets and reps and sort of what your weight should be. Any advisement on exercises? Like, is there probably a good bank of like first step exercises that someone could do?
Everyone's starting from different positions. I would say you generally want to be hitting, there's there's 4, or maybe you could also split into 6 kind of like major movement patterns. So there's squatting / lunging, like back squats, walking lunges, the leg press machine, any type of squat machine, front squats, any of that stuff. Split squats, that's all your squats and lunges. Then you've got hinging / picking things up. So deadlifts, any variation of a deadlift, good morning, any variation of a good morning, picking up things like sandbags or stones. Third thing is you've got horizontal pushing. So that's pushing like out in front of you, or maybe slightly vertically as well. So that's things like bench press, push-ups. You could, I suppose, count stuff like dips in there as well. You've got more vertical pushing. So that's like things that are really high incline on the bench, like really high incline barbell press or overhead press or landline press or dumbbell overhead press. You have horizontal pulling, so things like any rowing basically. And then you've got vertical pulling, so any type of pull up or lat pull down. And I would say to start, if you're doing, when you're going in the gym, you're doing like several of those each time. That's a really good place to start for most people. And what variation you choose, that's the great thing about this. As long as you choose a variation that generally that feels good, you enjoy doing, and takes you through a pretty good range of motion. So you're going, when you squat, it's not just like a quarter squat. You're going to at least just below parallel or lower if you can. things like that. You're going through a decent range of motion and you can push the movement hard. You're enjoying doing it. And so across a training week, you're hitting all of those things at least once. In some cases, maybe ideally even twice. That's a really good place to start. And then you can just fill in the gaps with either weaknesses you know you have or weaknesses a coach has identified or areas that you want to bring up or work on. Fill in the gaps with isolation work. So yeah, things like training your arms, training your shoulders, training your bum, training your core, training your calves, that kind of stuff.
And would you say it's good to incorporate cardio into that mix as well?
Yeah, for sure.
But see, if you only had time to go to the gym like 2 to 3 times a week, you can't do the 4 to 5. Can you incorporate it into like a strength session?
Definitely. You can do them in the same session.
And would it hinder your progress, like muscle building wise, if you were to do that?
Yes and no. So for the average person who needs to do a bit of cardio, again, no, not at all.
Because cardio is good for heart health and
it's good for just your health in general. Everything about your health will improve by becoming cardiovascularly more fit. But no, for our purposes, it won't interfere. As long as you're just fueling your body well enough, like if you're trying to build fat or lose muscle, you're fueling yourself appropriately, you'll be grand. However, if you're someone who's doing a lot of cardio or someone who's doing a lot of strength training and then you try and do them both together at a high level, they can interfere with each other. You have to be a lot smarter about how you're programming them. But if you're doing cardio a couple of times a week and you're doing strength a couple of times a week and you're just trying to get a bit fitter, build some muscle and strength, no, they won't interfere. And if you only had 3 times a week, there is several ways you could set up. So say you wanted to do them both twice a week. You do one full body strength training session, and then you do a second full body strength training session. The first session maybe lasts 60 minutes. The second full body strength training maybe make it about 40 minutes. And then at the end of the full body strength training session, the second one that's 40 minutes long, you could do like a 20-minute high intensity cardio session. And then the third day that you go in, you could just do like a full on cardio session. Right. So now you've set up, so you've got one full cardio day, one full strength day, and kind of like a mixed day. And yeah, they won't interfere in that kind of setup. Though, if anything, I think they'll complement one another. You'll feel better, you'll be fitter. Yeah.
So is it impossible, say, for like a marathon runner, like to become a marathon runner and like a weightlifter at the same time? You know, when you see your two extremes, is it hard to train for both?
It's trickier, but people do it. However, I think you have to accept that if you're trying to do 2 completely opposing tasks like that, you have to probably expect slower gains in both of them. Because you asked me if they will hinder each other. Yes, they will hinder one another, but it doesn't mean you can't do them both at the same time or can't do them both together successfully.
For instance, could you become quite fast at running or better at running, but your muscle growth might be slower?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But you would still be building muscle, just...
How you can also set things up as well, because I told you, like I said before, it doesn't take much to maintain. So you could put this doesn't apply to most people, but if you were serious about trying to get both of those qualities as high as possible, it would probably be wiser to put one on more like maintenance. So you do a bit less cardio, just enough to maintain it. And then you focus more on the strength and muscle. And then you put that on maintenance for a while and you focus more on the cardio. And you can oscillate back and forth between those. But for your normal person who's not trying to be like like IFBB pro, like, you know, sub 2 hour marathon or something crazy, they don't need to worry about it. It's just not going to be a problem. Like they will benefit, they will complement one another when done together for your average person.
Right. So whenever you're going like through your bulking stage and you're training, could it be an idea then to like, obviously you're eating more food, you're intaking more calories to help fuel yourself for that strength training during your bulk period. Could you like maximize your strength then? And then whenever you come to like your cut for deficit of calories, you could then increase your cardio element. So then is that a way you could balance it?
I'm sure, you could do it that way if you wanted.
I'm going to become a coach.
It's maybe worth clarifying like what Sarah's saying there. When she's saying bulking, what she's meaning is you're eating in a calorie surplus and you're deliberately eating slightly more food to provide an abundance of nutrients so that your body can build as much muscle and strength as possible. Another way to think about it is you could call it like a muscle building phase. And then the opposite of that would be like people would call it a cut, or you could also call it a fat loss phase. And that's when you're deliberately eating less than you need. So you're eating in a calorie deficit to lose fat. So your body basically eats itself and burns fat. That's what you mean by that. And you can be more or less aggressive with your bulking or your cutting. If you're more aggressive with your bulking, you're going to have to accept more fat gain. At a certain point, being so aggressive is just pointless unless you deliberately or you need to put on a lot of fat. Maybe if you're very underweight, or maybe you're like, some type of rugby or American footballer who wants to have additional fat for whatever reason. Maybe they want to be extra aggressive like that. But in general, and then if you're more aggressive with your cutting, you will lose fat faster, but you'll also you'll really cut away any ability you had to build muscle and strength while you're losing fat. But that's just to clarify what those two things are.
So whenever you're eating in like your bulk phase, is that like the best time to build muscle? Because is eating that amount of food to fuel what you're training, but is it like a good foundations for your strength work?
It is 100% the best environment. Keeping in mind though, it's like the nutrition complements or it backs up the training. So there's no point in eating in a surplus and then like not training or half-arsing your training. Like the training's the bit you want to get right first. Like make sure you're training hard enough, you're training appropriately, you're training all the areas that need to be trained, and then you use the food to back that up.
Why is it the best environment? Like what's happening in your body for it to, like, is the food providing you energy to be able to train more? But
yeah, so if you imagine you've got a house, and
am I the house?
You are the house. Okay. And if you imagine the bricks are like the protein, and then if you imagine the builders, you're feeding the builders like carbs and fats.
Right.
So if you give the builders plenty of bricks, so they've got lots of protein, but you don't give them enough carbs and fats, they're going to struggle to have the energy to build the house as fast as they possibly could. However, that's still better than if you were not giving them enough protein. Because if you don't give them enough protein and then you give them plenty of carbs and fats, they're going to have the energy they need to build the house, but they're not going to have enough bricks to build with. And then if you don't give them enough of both of those things, there ain't no way you're going to build any muscle, because now they don't have enough energy to build with, and they also don't have the bricks they need to build with. However, when you're in a calorie surplus, so you should be eating plenty of protein. Again, if you're not eating plenty of protein, you're just going to be giving them all the energy they need, but not enough bricks. But if you're giving them all the protein they need, they're now going to have all the energy they need to build with, and they're going to have all the bricks they need to build with.
Because the protein makes the muscle, helps to build the muscle.
That's what your muscles are made of, protein. And then the carbs and fats are like the fuel that you're using to build that muscle. It's more complex than that, but to not make it too complex.
It really helps, yeah.
That's a really simple terms what's happening.
So that way, if you're eating too many carbs and fat, the energy with the builders, you just got too much and you won't build enough muscle. Like you don't have the protein to build the muscle with.
If you eat lots of carbs and fats and you undereat protein, your builders will have plenty of energy to build with, but they just won't have enough bricks. And the only other thing I'll add is, like, see, when you strength train, it's almost like, I haven't actually thought about where I was going to go with this analogy in terms of strength training, so this could go off the wall, but I'll try it. When you strength train, it worked with the nutrition, I'll try and add in training. When you strength train, it's like you are slightly damaging the house, but it almost like the builders almost get like all this extra drive to, we really want to build the house now. Like when you strength train, it's like you signal to your body, you damage yourself, but then you also signal to your body to like, let's really build this house. So then they're really encouraged to, like, they really want to build the house bigger and stronger.
I love that.
So that's why eating in a calorie surplus will provide the best environment, because there's going to be if you're training hard, the builders are going to be really encouraged to build the house. You're going to have plenty of bricks to build with, and they're going to have plenty of PB and J sandwiches to eat at lunch to fuel them to build the house. If you're eating plenty of carbs and fats, which is the fuel. What should
you eat?
What should you eat? Really simply, eat mostly whole animal foods, whole plant foods, so largely minimally processed, largely single ingredient, whole animal and plant foods. That's what make most of your meals whole animal foods, so dairy, meat, fish, eggs, offal, if you like that kind of stuff. And then whole plant foods, fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts and seeds. Make that the center of your diet, and then allow yourself some treats. If you really like brownies, have some brownies, but don't go crazy. If you really like crisps, have some crisps. And you'll be great. And then and then, like I said, if you're wanting to build muscle, eat a little bit more. If you want to really maximize your ability to build muscle and strength, just eat a little bit more so you very slowly gain weight. And then, or at least you can be more aggressive so you can like gain weight a bit faster. But for most people, I find they like just gaining weight slowly, don't like gaining weight too fast. And then if you're trying to lose fat, still eating the same foods, you probably just want to eat slightly less treats, eat more whole foods so you feel full and you feel good, and then just eating a calorie deficit, so eating less than you need.
And how much protein would you recommend for building muscle?
I would probably take your height in centimeters and eat that much.
Right.
So I'm 183 centimeters, so it'd be 183 grams of protein. Having said all that though, that number is high. And I'd say it is quite hard to get if you're not used to it. You would 100% be getting more than enough protein with that number. I think if you're new to this and you're trying to eat more protein, the initial target I usually work on my clients and getting is we just get 100 grams a day. That's like the first step, because someone comes to me and they're eating like 40, 50, 60 grams a day. Trying to get up to that number is a real shock, and it's probably too big of a jump for most people. So first we try and hit 100 grams. And then from there, we just start to taper up. Depending on their weight, their goals, their height, we'll start to taper that up. You don't need to hit that number. It's a nice number to try and get close to. Yeah, if you can get close to that as possible, I think that'd be pretty good for most people.
How much protein do you eat?
So I'll usually about 170 plus per day grams.
How do you find doing that? Like, can you eat too much protein? Is that...
I'm sure you probably could, but it's not a problem that most people are ever going to deal with.
I guess it's so satiating, isn't it, that you can't really overeat it?
I'm sure someone could overeat protein if they really tried, but the number's so high that it's just not something I think people need to be worried about.
Right.
Most people are under-eating protein. But just to sum that up, because I was kind of like jumping back and forth there, I think as an initial goal, getting to that 100 grams a day is really solid for most people. And then getting up to 80 or 90% of your height is maybe a good place to go. About 80 or 90% of that number. So if I'm 180, then if I'm getting to close to about 150 grams, that's really solid.
Yeah.
About 80 or 90% of your height is a really, like if once my clients get to there and they're doing that consistently, I generally don't try and make them go high. That's really, really solid.
And will you notice a difference with how you're feeling? Like, see if you're under eating your protein and then you're wanting to build muscle, train a bit more consistently. If you're eating enough protein above and beyond, if you can, like amazing. And then you're training, will you feel a difference in how you're performing?
If you go from under eating protein, so you're not eating really what you need, to eating plenty, yeah, you should notice it.
Yeah.
However, that's the thing though, once you're eating sufficient amounts, even if there is benefits to it, you probably wouldn't notice it. So someone is eating 150, if I was eating 150 grams a day and I went up to 170 grams a day, even if that was beneficial, I don't think I'm going to be like, oh my God, I feel so much better. But if I was eating, 50 grams a day and then I got up to 120 grams a day, I'd probably notice a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
See if you're in a situation where you want to build muscle, but also at the same time you feel like you may be carrying a little bit too much body fat for your own personal preference. Is it possible to do the both at the same time? To burn fat and build muscle?
Kind of, yeah, it is. But I actually asked me before, I'll answer the one question you asked me that I didn't answer before, which was, how do I find eating that much protein? It's just how my lifestyle is now. And it's just about, it doesn't need to be all or nothing. If you're only eating like that 50 grams a day, how do I get to the point, and this is what I do with my clients, how do we get to the point where you're consistently eating 80 grams a day? Because the changes we have to make aren't going to be that crazy. We just have to make a couple of small changes to get you up to 80 grams. Then we make a couple more small changes to get you up to 100. And then we start to just slowly continue to make those changes until we creep you up. And that could be like that could be like a year or even 2 year long process to win the client, where we're just slowly helping them just make lifestyle changes to add more protein over time. Some people do it really, really fast. Other people are it just depends on the person and their lifestyle.
I guess it depends on your food taste as well. Like there's some like protein powder for me that some of the textures I'm not the biggest fan of, but if I put protein powder into like what I'm baking and eating it that way instead of like a massive protein shake, I prefer it that way. And
you don't need to eat protein powder. You could just do it through whole foods. Again, it's just totally based on your lifestyle and preferences, what we end up doing.
Just planning and meal prepping in that regard to make sure you're getting enough in.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, back to my next question, it was just to ask if you can burn fat and build muscle at the same time.
I actually put this out in my email recently. On the Friday when we're talking about the physical fitness stuff. The answer is yes, you can do them together. I touched on it earlier when I was talking about building fat and building muscle. Burning fat and building muscle, sorry. If you're in a small... I'm trying to think of the easiest way to sum this up. If you're new to training, it'll be easier to do. Mm-hmm. If you're new to training and you have quite a lot of excess body fat, it's definitely very possible. If you're not so new to training and you don't have much excess body fat, I would say it's not going to happen, or it's going to be so insignificant that you're not going to notice. If you're not so new to training and you're carrying quite a bit of excess body fat, it probably is still possible. So that's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is the size of the deficit that you create is also going to factor in. So if I'm creating a small to moderate deficit, so I'm somewhere losing like half a pound to a pound a week, it's doable. Especially if, like what I said before, if you're one of the people who it would work for, half pound, it's definitely possible. When you start to creep over probably a pound and a half of loss a week, so that's like maybe over like 3/4 of a kilo a week, I would say you're going to start just hindering muscle growth more and more and more. So every, half a pound or 1/4 kilo, you start to go over that in terms of your rate of loss per week, you're just going to hinder it more and more and more. That's the answer. So it is possible, but it's going to be hindered regardless. It's like being at maintenance would be better than being in a deficit, and being in a surplus would be better than maintenance. But then, just basically in terms of your starting body fat, your starting training age, and then the size of the deficit that you create, it's going to be better or worse in terms of your ability to build muscle.
So see if you were somebody that fitted into that criteria, would you suggest that, or would you think it's better to either eat at maintenance and train to build muscle and then look at being in a deficit afterwards? Or would you tackle the two at the same time?
To be honest with you, I would ask someone what their priority is. And if they're like, my priority is to lose fat, I would be like, you don't even need to, I'd be training the same anyway. I'd be like, we should be going to the gym a couple of times a week to do our strength work, focused on getting stronger. So it's like, you don't even need to really think about it. Just, you should be strength training anyway, because it's regardless of if, like, let's say you were trying to lose fat. And if you were losing fat in a deficit, you couldn't build any strength or muscle. It was impossible. It would still be worth your while to strength train. You're going to hold on to the muscle that you've got. You're going to, your joints, your ligaments, your connective tissue, your bones. Mentally, it feels good. Like, there's so many other benefits to it. Like, metabolically, it's really good for you. That even if it was completely impossible to build strength and muscle, I'd still say it's something worthwhile doing in a fat loss phase. So, regardless, I would just be strength training anyway. Just manage your expectations that if you're trying to lose fat, you are hindering it. And if you're being more aggressive with your fat loss, you're hindering it even more.
Right.
So does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah? But I think, I think it absolutely answers it. You were speaking about food whenever, as a main focus is whole foods, like animal whole foods, plant whole foods, and then any of your sweet treats and bits that you like.
Yeah.
Would you recommend supplements?
So, supplements is such a big topic that rather than dive into it deep, I'll say this, like, if you're struggling to get in your protein and you're busy, something like a protein powder, a whey protein powder, can be really beneficial.
Yeah.
To supplement what you're already doing, just to help you get enough protein. It's absolutely fantastic for that. And I would say for people who really need it to benefit their lifestyle, or to complement their lifestyle they're living, I think it's a great idea. So I'll just focus on protein, really. I would say, it's a good idea for most people, but I would not use it as like a cop out if you can otherwise eat like whole animal foods that are high in protein. However, if you generally are very busy, or maybe it's like you need a quick meal that you can eat in the morning that you can prepare the night before, maybe something like overnight oats with protein powder is a great fit for you.
Yeah.
And then in which case, I would say that's fantastic.
What about creatine? Or is that for someone who's a bit more advanced?
No, it's not for someone that's more advanced. I'd say, could it help? Yes. Is it one of the things worth focusing on if you're not
like new and
not even if you're new? if you're not doing the basics consistently, you're getting in the gym a couple of times a week to train strength, you're getting in the gym a couple of times a week to do some cardio, your sleep's pretty good most of the time, you're eating mostly whole animal and plant foods, you know what you're doing in the gym and you're progressively getting stronger and you're tracking what you're doing, same with your cardio. I'd say until you're doing all that stuff regularly, stuff like creatine don't matter.
Fair enough.
It's one of those things that are like ice baths or like saunas. Could they have some benefit? Maybe. Is it worthwhile you focusing on it if you're not doing all that other stuff, most of the time? No. You're just going to miss the forest for the trees and start focusing on this crap that you don't need to worry about.
Like maybe hit your protein goal first and then we'll go from there.
Hit your protein goal first. Be consistently going to the gym. Don't be sleeping like 5 hours a night.
Yeah.
Drink enough water.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm probably not saying anything to anyone that they don't already know. Once you're doing that basic stuff, then can creatine have some benefit? Yeah, probably. But it's just, don't worry about it just now.
One step at a time.
See if you sleep in 4 hours a night and you're eating like a child.
Yeah.
And you're not training very regularly. Start taking creatine, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So don't worry about it.
How long do you think it would take to see results if you're doing all of the above correctly, of course? Like consistently going to the gym, sleep, food. How long?
I don't know is the answer to that.
How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing this for like 10 years plus.
I mean, you look great.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If you're trying to, I'll answer the question. I'll actually answer now. I don't know is the actual answer, but I'll try and give something for people to take away.
Is that what you're putting on all this work and consistency and time? People will want to get a result.
I would be looking at fat loss efforts in terms of weeks. So you could see results from as little as a couple of weeks in.
Yeah.
Up to several weeks and then like 2-3 months is how I would be looking at a fat loss timeline. And then a muscle building / cardio improvement timeline, I'd be looking at multiple months and years to really see significant results. Like you got to be in it for the long haul with that stuff. But in terms of fat loss efforts, you can see results in as little as a couple of weeks. And when someone's new to the gym and they start strength training and they start doing cardio, they can see results really, really fast too. Like you'll be putting weight on the bar weekly, fortnightly. You'll be, you take up rowing. Every week you go in that gym, you're rowing consistently. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel like you can row longer. Like it'll be really, really quick in the beginning, but that will plateau eventually. And at that point, you're going to have to start looking at things in terms of months and years to see really significant progress.
Does it plateau just because the weight is getting to an extent that it's so heavy?
Yeah, it plateaus because, if it didn't plateau, we would all be running sub-2-hour marathons and bench pressing 500 kilos if you could just consistently just add and add and add and add.
Yeah. But obviously lifting 5 to 15 kilos versus 100, 200, it's a massive jump in comparison. It's lightweight when you first begin.
Yeah.
And that's why you can lift that weight and why you can progress. But you do get it to an extent where it just gets really heavy. And you need to progress slower because it's very heavy.
Well, the human body just has limits.
Yeah. Imagine we could lift that more.
People do that stuff like that. It's just, people do crazy things with their body, but everyone has different genetics and everyone has different limits in terms of what their body can do. But the limits for most people are actually way, way higher than they realize. So I don't say that to discourage people. I just say it's like, you're asking me why do we plateau? I mean, the body just can't adapt forever. And it, as you get stronger and you get fitter, it just takes longer to adapt.
But then that's why consistency is key.
Yeah,
as long as you're doing it regularly on a consistent basis, that's going to be your answer for progress.
It's no different to anything really though. So you paint, you're a fabulous painter. I don't paint at all. If I took up painting, my painting relative to how it was would probably improve way more than yours over the next year, just because I've got so much to improve.
Yeah.
You've got much less to. So it's like that. It's like anything. Everything's like that. You can't just,
Yeah, for sure.
And I think people also hit a lifestyle limit with it. So it's in order to continue to see really substantial results, you would have to sacrifice more and more and more in your life. So again, to bring back maybe the painting analogy, in order for you to start to see significant benefits in your painting, if I painted 2 hours a week, my painting is going to get better week to week. If you painted 2 hours a week, yours might not. However, if you're prepared to paint 10, 15 hours a week, then you would maybe start to see significant improvements. But at a certain point, you're like, I'm just not willing to sacrifice even more time. So it's like, it's not that people can't still see results. It's just that in order to see the best results they could be getting, they will have to, focus more and more of their life onto like the gym and results. And at a certain point for people, they're just like, yeah, this isn't worth it anymore. I'm not trying to be like a professional athlete or bodybuilder or something. I just
want to feel good.
Yeah, and that's to say, it's not that you can't still build strength and muscle. You can. It's just going to be a lot slower, especially if you're not willing to like change more and more things about your life to like optimize building those physical qualities.
But I guess once you get to that stage, there's other things you can look at, whereas your form, your technique, the sport, if there's other things you want to try, like if it's Olympic weightlifting or Atlas stones, like
totally.
So many areas, like once you get to that stage of it, I first started going to like little fitness classes and learning how to even like what to do with a bar, and then end up going to the gym, and then you try different like sports within the gym area. So I think that is another way to keep learning and keep yourself interested, so you keep the consistency up.
Yeah. I think that's why it's like...
And that's what's fun.
If you can understand these broader things that really matter in terms of getting fitter, building muscle, building strength, even just the broader principles you need to understand about losing fat and stuff, if you can understand those broader things, in terms of changing things up so psychologically it remains stimulating, there's just so much options. It's like with fat loss. People will hone in on a method as like the way, but the method, it's not that the method is the way, it's the principles underlying the method are what are creating the change. And once you start to see that that's true for all of this, it just really opens up, your available options, which is really exciting. It's like, people will be like, oh, keto is the way to lose fat. Well, as long as you're creating a calorie deficit, it doesn't really matter if you're keto or if you're high carb or if you're somewhere in the middle. The underlying principle that's creating the change is the calorie deficit. However, a certain method based on your personality, your temperament, your current lifestyle, it may suit you better, but that doesn't mean it's not working because of the method, it's working because of the principles, but you're able to adhere to it because of the method.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's like
interesting.
Yeah, exactly. With strength and cardio and stuff, there is definitely some benefit to some level of consistency, but there's plenty of scope for variety as well within that.
Absolutely. You touched briefly on sleep. How important is rest and recovery amongst all of this?
Rest and recovery
especially within strength training.
So important, but I'm not going to go down, like I spoke about saunas and ice baths. There's so much rest and recovery, like bullshit, to be honest. The only stuff you need to be worrying about is just managing your training intelligently, which again, a well-designed program or a good coach will be able to do that for you. Managing that relatively intelligently, sleeping enough, and then eating enough, and then hydrating yourself.
Yeah.
Eating enough whole, nutrient-dense foods. Again, those whole food animals, those whole food plants. Eating enough protein, eating enough fiber, eating enough vitamins and minerals, which you'll get if you just eat a variety of plants and animals. Have some treats and just do that stuff consistently. That's the recovery that matters. It's not all that other stuff. Like, get outside, do things that help you relax, chilling, watching a bit of TV, or going out with some friends and just going for a walk. Any things that just help you chill and relax, do that stuff. Yeah, and you'll be winning.
But I guess if you're in an environment where you're working 9 to 5, if you need to commute into work, making your sleep a priority will be beneficial for your strength training. It's that way. It's hard to do everything in that regard. Like if you're working a 9 to 5 job, if you have a commute to get yourself into work, if you work from home, it might be different situations, but you need to get yourself to bed on time to feel like you can perform well in any aspect of your life, as well as training.
I think it would definitely, to be getting at least that 7 hours when you can will really, really make a difference to people. And there's some people in circumstances where that's more difficult, but I'd say for those people, they're just going to have to accept that it is hindering them. But yeah, to answer, is it important? It's super important, but it's not important in the way that most people talk about it, all that weird recovery crap. Again, it's just about doing the basics consistently. The sleep, the food, the training. Yeah.
About feeling your own body as well. Like if you find that you need a day just to have a wee movie on the sofa on a Sunday afternoon, take it. Like don't burn yourself out. Because
to kind of back up what you were saying there, people have a lot on their plate already. No pun intended.
I didn't even get that.
So I'm not trying to add more.
Like try not to overthink it.
Like all these extra recovery things they need to be doing. I'm just saying, just alter what you're eating slightly because you're going to be eating food. Just alter what you're eating. Try and sleep a bit more where you can, and just manage your training appropriately. Like, so don't worry about it. Just turn over the big rocks consistently. And you ain't going to need any of that stuff, especially if you're just like us. You've got other jobs, responsibilities, and the gym doesn't rule your life. You want to feel good, you want to look good, you want to perform good. These big rocks are really all you have to worry about.
How long have you been on your muscle building journey now?
You mean my whole life?
Yeah, your story, yeah.
My muscle building journey started when...
Maybe I shouldn't have asked this.
Really quick, like speed run it. Introduced to kind of like training by my dad. My dad had P90X by a guy called Tony Horton, which was several DVDs. It had like an ab day, it had like a weights day, it had a cardio day. He did them all in front of the TV.
How fun.
It was really fun. I really enjoyed them, actually. I'm pretty sure he had a Pilates thing that we did as well sometimes.
Oh my God.
And then he also...
Did you have the headband and the aerobic outfit as well?
I did not have any of that, no. And he also got a bench and he got dumbbells. Dumbbells that I've actually still got now, but he got adjustable dumbbells and he got a bench. And then, yeah, we started working out. A funny story, actually. Me and my friend Josh, we were working out on using this stuff, and we actually got creatine.
Yeah.
Like speaking about creatine.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what creatine was at the time. We actually thought it was like a brand of protein that was called creatine. And you're supposed to, we knew, we'd read somewhere in a magazine, I don't know, some Muscle and Health or something, that you're taking.
How old are you at this point?
16 maybe?
Right. 17.
We basically read in a magazine that we take about 30 grams of protein a day, but then we opened the creatine. Creatine you take generally about 5 grams a day. So the scooper is a 5 gram scooper.
Tiny,
it's
yeah,
tiny.
yeah.
So we're like, what the hell? So for like, maybe like a month, we were putting like 30 grams of creatine after our workout and drinking it because we thought it was protein. I don't know if we just stopped there if we realized it wasn't protein, but I mean, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So that's when it started, and then it was several years.
But I guess like consistently we felt you've actually made progress. Like a few years, like 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah, for sure. I've probably made the best progress in my life over the last kind of like...
I mean, even for
certainly post-COVID, I've made the best results of my life. But yeah, probably the last like 6-7 years, I've really started to work out what I'm supposed to be doing. But the first, from about 16 to 22, it's not that I didn't get any results. I did.
I guess you're trial and error as well.
I made a lot of mistakes. I just was doing a lot of stuff that... And that's the thing, to be fair, I never had anyone guiding me either. I was just trial and error and stuff with by myself or with my friends, just trying to work stuff out, and made loads of mistakes. And like I say, I got some results, but yeah, that first 6 or 7 years, I see people now online, they're so young and they really know what they're doing. They're getting great results. And I was like, God, when I was like 16 to 22, I was so all over the place with my training and nutrition. I had no idea what I was doing. I just made every mistake in the book, which is maybe why I became a personal trainer, because I was I spent so long in that journey making so many mistakes, and I did work out a lot. So
I just help other people.
Yeah, and I get very passionate about it too,
Oh, I can tell.
Yeah.
You should see this guy on holiday. If there's ever a gym, it's like a play park for him. I'm trying to find ways to adjust exercises, and
it's just good fun.
He's like, can we go to the gym? Can we go to the gym? I think you just want to be in a gym constantly.
It's fun.
Besides you becoming a personal trainer and everything like that, obviously, whenever you're younger, you're a slightly smaller frame than you are now. Mm-hmm. Why did you want to build muscle?
Why did I initially want to build muscle?
Yeah. I might come across as a stupid,
no, it's not a stupid question.
But why? Why did you want to?
Probably wanted to look attractive for girls and be more confident. Girls and confidence is why I was doing it.
Did you feel that building strength and muscle provided what you wanted mentally?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess over making gains over the last 15 years or so, over that first, let's say the gains I made over that first 10 years or so, no, it didn't. It's like I thought I would feel enough and confident if I built the muscle and the strength. And as I made those gains, it's like it almost didn't happen. It didn't work, which in some ways was terrifying. It's like the goalpost was always being moved when I would get results. It's like I was never there. I never made it. Never got to genuinely and truly feel the way that I thought I would would get to or the way that I wanted to. And I think it just comes back to like what we spoke about for a lot of these episodes, just the script. When I let the script dictate the criteria that needs to be met in order for me to feel enough, I never meet the criteria. If I never meet that criteria, I mean, if I ever do meet it, the goalposts are swiftly moved. And it's just like, it's never enough. And ironic, it's like the script becomes like a gatekeeper for me feeling the way that I want to feel, when the way that I want to feel is those emotions are already inside of me. Like the only reason I can't feel them now, feel enough, feel deserving, feel content, feel happy even, is just purely because the script sets some criteria that I'm now trying to meet. And no matter how hard I would push or how often I would meet that criteria, the goalpost was always moved. So it didn't give me that, which is why I've now probably really leaned into like wanting to talk about and help people with not just the physical fitness, but their mental fitness as well, because I worked on my physical fitness for a decade and never unlocked internally what I was hoping to unlock. So yeah, that's that one.
What would you advise then to people? Like,
I'd advise you listen to Life Unscripted podcasts.
Is it a better plan of action if you're thinking about changing your body shape for any reason, bigger, smaller, stronger, whatever you want to do, or even just for general movement? I think if you're coming at it from an aesthetic point of view, I'm not saying that's wrong. I mean, like, of course, I would love to lose a little bit of like body fat just so I feel a bit more confident. But is it a question of digging deeper before you embark on that journey to figure out if you're coming from a very scripty heavy place, because then that's ultimately going to change your identity about, I don't want to be in the gym to say, if I do this or work out, I'm going to like, it's going to burn calories, I'm going to lose weight. Like, that's my mentality. Instead of going into the gym and saying, I want to be here to be strong, to fuel my body with the right food, to eat appropriately, not to do it from a negative point of view. Is it worthwhile sitting with that first before you embark on a journey like this?
I think it's worthwhile to do them concurrently for sure, at the very least, like do them at the same time, because I still think the benefits you'd get from the gym are still amazing physically. And even like from doing workouts, you will still feel a lot better in the moment for sure as well, like mentally. So I think they're great in that regard. But in terms of like that deeper like identity shift, like I think it's worthwhile doing it at least alongside your gymming. And
because especially with building muscle, of course, if you're trying to lose weight, you will start to see visual results within like 2-3 weeks if you're doing it correctly. Is that right? However, with
you can see results that quickly. Not that you not necessarily will, but you definitely can see results that quickly.
But you were saying with like the muscle building journey, it is slower in visual like aspects. So I'm just, from that point of view that you're saying that mentally you were trying to do this to feel confident, to feel attractive, to try ask out a girl, whatever age it is, on that journey, it can be very slow because you're trying to build as much muscle as you can, but it can take years. If you're striving to be like, I want to be as big as I possibly can, but the underlying reasoning is I want to be confident, you're going to be on that journey for a very long time.
You're probably in that journey forever, because it comes back to what we spoke about last time. It was like, how long is it going to take you to find what you're looking for if you're looking in the wrong place? You're never going to find it. So I guess the thing is, when in broadband consciousness, we have this thing called the sausage machine. And it's basically, if you're trying to make beef sausages, what are you going to need to put in the sausage machine?
Beef.
Good. If you're trying to make...
Got a question right.
Trying to make pork sausages, what are you going to have to put in?
Pork.
Trying to even make, for the veggies out there, if you're trying to make a tofu sausage, what are you going to have to put in?
Tofu.
Okay,
Or
so...
veggies, whatever you want.
So if you're trying to make a happy sausage, what do you need to put in?
Happiness.
Perfect.
I love this game.
If you're trying to put... So you want to be successful in your career, so you want to get success out of the sausage machine, what are you going to have to put in the sausage machine?
Hard work? Or success if we're going on the
We'll try again.
Success.
So exactly. So you want to get success out of the sausage machine. What are you going to have to put in it?
That's my script talking, by the way.
What are you going to put in it?
Success.
Exactly. So most people are standing at this end of the sausage machine, hoping to get out a certain type of sausage.
Yeah.
The enough sausage, I'm enough sausage, the confident sausage, the happy sausage, the fulfilled sausage, the content sausage, the healthy person, the fit person, the strong person. They're standing at that side of the sausage machine waiting on it, so they're a waiter. but they're not spending any time putting in the ingredients they need to get those sausages out. And then they wonder why they're I mean, the script's ruling the roost, but they're stressed, or they're unhappy, or they're very anxious, or they're or any number of things. And then they're getting those sausages out, and they're confused as to why that's happening, because that's not the sausages they want to get out. They just need to start standing at the other end of the sausage machine and start being a creator. So you're actually trying to create the things that you want, and the things that you want, the feelings are already inside of you. The only reason you can't feel them is because the script set this criteria that feels very real, but it's this criteria that needs to be met in order to feel that way, when that's not true. It's like if I called you up and I was like, Sarah, you've won the lottery. And then you're like, oh my God, holy, oh, and you're like ecstatic about it. And then I was like, then I say, oh no, wait, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Like, you actually never won the lottery, but you still allowed yourself to feel ecstatic because the emotion's already in you. It's just that you thought something had happened that would then allow you to feel that way, but actually it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You just allowed yourself to feel that way. And that's all people need to start practicing doing. And I think when you just start being able to like identify the script and separate from it and show up as the real you, you can then just start practicing that and start practicing being a creator, and then putting in the sausages that you want. And then you will start getting out the sausages that you want.
So see, if you were to do your journey all over again, like if you were 16,
you
go back to wee 16-year-old Christopher, but you know about the script and BC, would you do things differently? Obviously, because you've done the journey, you now know what to do right. But I mean from like a mental point of view, like going at it from a confidence, attractiveness, like wanting to look good.
I guess that's the thing. Like, I don't know what I would do differently. It's just I would be focused less on the doing and more on the being. Is the only thing that would change, because the doings, in many ways, to this conversation we're having, it's not so relevant. I mean, in terms of the building muscle and stuff, like the actual actions you take, it's very relevant. But in terms of how you feel, I think it's more about the being side, like what's going on internally. Like it's an inside job. So if I was 16 and I still didn't know what I was doing in terms of building strength and muscle, I'd probably still make all these mistakes that I was making. But I would now just be feeling, I'd just feel way better and feel way more content, and I already feel enough. I'm now just doing it because I can, and why would I not want to do that? Why would I not want to be stronger and fitter and, you know, whatever. Yeah,
those goalposts are always moving. They wouldn't be moving anymore, essentially. Like you're always trying to get that the internal goalposts. Like you start with the confidence now.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I could still set goals like, oh, I want to lift this amount of weight, or I want to achieve this certain thing, but it's no longer I'm doing it to try and appease the script and then hope I feel enough. I would just feel enough already and do it because I can.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice message to put out, that you are enough as you are, no matter what shape or size you are. Of course, if you want to like build muscle or lose a bit of weight, it can be a fun journey in the fact like I'm gonna, as you've mentioned before, like leveling up in a game, like your little game character, if you imagine it in that regard, it can be a really fun activity. But know that your confidence and your beauty and your worthiness as you are right now is way more than enough. Like you're perfect just as you are. I think going in with that mentality, I should really take my own advice sometimes. But just remembering that and going into the gym to have fun, to move your body, to feel good, to be energized and to be full of beans for everybody in your family or whatever. I think that's the message to take from it. Of course, there's logistical things that you need to do for building muscle or losing weight, but
that's what I mean. Like there's logistical stuff for that, but when you're asking me in terms of like what I would do differently, the doing may not, I mean, inevitably the doing would shift if my being shifts.
Yeah.
But I would say the thing that would be focused on differently is the being side of it. And that would, I'm almost sure, cause a massive, because it has caused a massive difference in my doing. It's just that most people are doing, hoping they get the being shift, when it just didn't really work for me. When I focused on the being shift, the doing did eventually change.
The being being your identity. Is that correct?
Being the being meaning, yes, all of that. Like how conscious you are, focused on the fact
going
that
with the feeling,
standing at the right end of the sausage machine, being a creator, understanding that it's an inside out job, all of that stuff. That's all like the being, and like your value doesn't come from doing; it comes from being. Is also what I mean. Like
so you're doing the action. So if you're going in at the correct end of the sausage machine, ultimate goal, you want to build muscle, be stronger. But if you're coming in at it from an identity of confidence, I'm worth enough, I'm going to go do this to be strong, to be fueled in my body, move great. That's the doing.
Yes. And then the being is just like you're enough in spite of any of that.
Of course.
and understand, like, again, something I was speaking about in my email, one of the Wednesday mental fitness ones was deserving. It's like the big part of being, I think, is deserving. Like when you deserve to feel the way that you want, nothing has to happen for you to feel that way. But then by feeling that way, you're putting incredible ingredients in your sausage machine. You get incredible sausages out, and then you're going to be doing stuff like in your life, and then all that stuff starts to just shift and change.
Yeah.
Especially because the lens that you're looking at everything through changes as well. So even if the things don't necessarily change, because you've put on a new pair of glasses, that now you're seeing things differently anyway. But inevitably things do change. It's just that it's not worrying. It's like focused on like the inside out job, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So pretty happy to wrap up there.
Said a lot. Amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome episode.
So much, so thank you.
I've learned lots too from you and myself. I think
I am so smart.
No, you too. Like I think that like I just learn a lot from these conversations. Like
I think
you say things that I learn a lot from, and then like you prompt me to say things that maybe I hadn't thought about it before, and then I learn stuff from that too.
Yeah,
like
it's coming from an aspect of you know more than I do in this realm of fitness, building strength or whatever. So I feel like I'm asking questions that you may have either forgotten or not forgotten in the way of like you don't know it, but because you're doing this day in, day out, there's some of the basics that maybe yourself needs to be reminded of that you need to remember where people are starting at. No, for sure. And I think it's nice to have us both here to balance that out, you know, different times in our journey. I hope everyone enjoyed this episode. I did.
Hope you all did too. And we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Oh.